I quit my 9-to-5 job to pursue a career in UX design, and I had no design experience, no design degree. I didn't know how to design. I didn't even know that UX design was a thing 3 years ago. And so I thought I would share with you all my previous experience, how I was able to learn UX design skills, how long did it actually take me to get my first UX design job, and then wrap it up with any tips and tricks for those of you who are currently looking into heading into this whole journey of getting into UX design as a career. First, let's start with my previous background. So I graduated with a degree in psychology. I loved it, but I just didn't really feel like pursuing a degree any further, whether that was like a master's or a PhD. Honestly, it's probably because I was lazy and like I didn't want any more student loans. So I was like, all right, let's just get into making money, get me out into that job market. So then I went immediately to the Bay Area in San Francisco, and I started looking for a job there. And I ended up as an administrative assistant at a recruiting agency. So I was only there for about 3 months before a job came through, the recruiting agency itself, and it was for a hedge fund. And so I ended up working in finance in investor relations, which is a customer-facing role, for about 3 years before I was like, all right, I'm done with the Bay Area. It was getting a bit expensive, and I was like, you know, I want to go back to San Diego and be closer to family. So once I came back to San Diego, I ended up working at a digital marketing agency as an account manager. Now, this is kind of where I started to get my feet wet in the whole tech world. I was working with project managers, developers, web designers, graphic designers, branding, and I really enjoyed it. But I knew I kind of wanted to step out of the client-facing role and kind of go more in production. So I started, researching, Googling around what is there that would bridge the gap between psychology, my degree, and tech. And that's where I found UX research. And from there, it kind of spiraled into UX design, UX UI design, product design. And so now that I was really excited about potentially switching my career into UX design, I had to think through like, how was I actually going to learn these skills? That brings us into the second phase of this video, which is how did I learn all of these UX design skills when I had no experience whatsoever? So I remember looking through a few ways. I was like, could I really self-teach myself? And then I remember thinking, no, you're kind of lazy sometimes and you need a way more structured environment and you need to be babied a little bit. So I was like, that's not gonna work. I looked into universities and I didn't really feel like going in person. I don't know why. It's just like I'm an introvert, I'm a hermit, and I was like, I don't wanna go through the whole like classroom thing again. And then I really liked boot camps because it was like fast track, intense. Like I love sprinting. I'd rather do that than like a long marathon. And so I was like, okay, I like the idea of a boot camp, but like, I'm not gonna lie. Like I thought, is this real? Like I didn't know if it was a scam or like what, cause there's just like some, stigmas that come with boot camps. So I was a little bit on the edge about that, but I knew a couple people who went through boot camps and successfully were able to get UX design jobs out of it. So then I decided, well, from there, which boot camp do you go with? And there's a bunch of different UX boot camps out there between Springboard, Design Lab, General Assembly. So you're kind of like, how do I choose? And at least from my experience, I reached out to a couple people, like I mentioned, and they went through Design Lab's UX Academy and were able to successfully find a UX design job out of it. So I kind of felt like that was enough for me to feel confident in enrolling. And so I went with Design Lab's UX Academy as my UX bootcamp. Now, I just made a video about UX Academy with my honest review after going through the entire program, some pros and cons, so feel free to check that out. I'm gonna link it somewhere up there. Once I started UX Academy, it was an 8 to 10 month program. It was really intensive, so that's kind of what I wanted. I just wanted, to go real hard and just be done with it, like at least within a year. And I was able to learn the UX fundamentals, be able to go through design critiques, be able to learn UI design and research processes. So it was really helpful, but I think the biggest question you're asking is, well, are you able to get a job out of it? Like, is this real? Is all of this money and time that you're putting in going to pay off. So the next question is, how long did it actually take me to land my job after completing my UX bootcamp? It took me 2 months after completing UX Academy bootcamp for me to find my first UX design job. Now, when I say job though, I'm saying it's a place where you're able to work on UX design projects with real stakeholders, but I did not get paid. So I was an unpaid UX design intern for 2 months before I was brought on as a full-time UX strategist. And that is a whole video on its own, whether or not an unpaid position is worth it for you straight out of a boot camp. So that is a conversation for another time. I do have a few tips on where to look next. If you're really new in this process and you're still kind of unsure if UX design is right for you and you're looking for some resources, I'll link some below, but I also have 3 tips that I find really valuable. Number 1 is check your sources. I know that sounds so silly, especially in this day and age. Like, you're obviously like,
Mimi, I know how to spot fake news.
but like, I wish it's something someone told me when I first started, because I was looking at so many different articles, so many videos, so many different types of content. They all started to blur together. And to be honest, like, they all were really, really glamorizing getting into UX design as a career. Like, a lot of these places were showing like, oh, I used to work in retail and now I work at Google and I make 6 figures and I did overnight and it was so easy, yay. I say really look at who's posting these things, because most of the time when it's like a Cinderella story like that, that's too good to be true, it's the boot camps. So just be wary about where this information is coming from. At least for me, like, I'm the type of person, before I want to invest in something and get into something, I don't want to just know all the good. I want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. So really do your research. Really try and figure out if UX design is something you want to do because you want a career out of it and you really want to do it every single day from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Check those sources and make sure they're coming from credible people and they're not just used as like a marketing gimmick. Now, my second tip is reaching out to your network. So look at your LinkedIn, see if you have any connections that are UX designers, and reach out to them and ask them how their experience was getting into UX design, and take it a step further and ask them, what do they do on a day-to-day basis? What do they love about it? What do they maybe not like so much about it? Some things that they wish they did while they're going through their boot camp. And I know every time I hear the word network, I'm like, what kind of uncomfortableness are you gonna put me through? I really don't wanna reach out to some like random high school acquaintance, but like, honestly, get over that fear, because I did, and I thought it was gonna turn out badly, but it was really great. Everyone was super nice, everyone responded. They gave me such good tips, so I highly recommend it, because getting those personal experiences is probably gonna be the best way for you to figure out whether or not this is right for you. Don't just reach out to UX designers. Look at anyone who actually interacts with UX designers. So those can be like product managers, developers, software engineers, visual designers, branding, marketing, copywriting. There's so many of them. If you even know anyone who works in those roles, they could be working with a UX designer on a really close basis, and they can really help you understand what that relationship is like. Like, what do you love about your UX designer? What do you look for in a good UX designer? And honestly, that's gonna give you like a way after your boot camp, even when you're interviewing, just in case you have interview panels with any of these types of stakeholders. So that is also a really great way for you to gain insight into what a UX designer does every day. And my final tip has to do more with if you decide to go with a boot camp, but that is to make the most of your boot camp. I can't even tell you how many times I got this tip from people in my LinkedIn messages, or people who have gone through boot camps, or, you know, switched their career into UX design, because you really only get what you put into it. You can't just expect to get a new career overnight by throwing money into it and just doing the basic assignments. Like, look outside of your boot camp. Look into podcasts, books, YouTube. Look at any and all resources, because the more that you know, the more you're going to get a better understanding of what you'll be doing once you're done with the boot camp. And that's something that boot camps don't really show you enough, at least with the boot camp that I went with. I felt like there wasn't enough real world prep and that kind of exposure. And the more that you teach yourself, you're just gonna get a leg up. The more that you're open to learning too, it just looks so much better and it comes off in interviews. So I highly recommend you live and breathe UX for that, year, 8 to 10 months that you're in that boot camp, because it's definitely going to pay off. And there you have it, how I went from 0 design experience to user experience within a year. I hope this video was really helpful for you, especially if you're looking into starting your career in UX design. I also want to mention I'm going to post a link down below that goes to Design Labs UX Academy. So if you're interested in enrolling, feel free to use my link. That would be really awesome because it supports this little tiny YouTube channel. And thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in more videos like this in the future, feel free to hit that red subscribe button down below. See you next time. Bye!